Welcome back again. Our next presentation is on the subject of using AI combined with a medical-grade connected T-shirt to detect and predict worsening heart failure. I'm delighted to announce Laurent Vandebrouck. He is the CEO at Chronolife. His expertise is focused on the development and operation of end-to-end services leveraging innovative satellite, cellular, Internet of Things and cloud-based technologies applied to the enterprise market in general and to digital health in particular. Well, I'm looking forward to your talk, Laurent. Take it away. There you go. And now you have to press ask to share your audio and video, and then you will be live on stage. So in the right corner, Laurent, there it is. Oh, there you are. Great. You're live, Laurent. Welcome.
Thank you. Just try to share the slide of the presentation as well.
Yes, it's
much better. Do you see it?
There you are.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot to the organizer to give the opportunity to Chronolife to explain how we combine artificial intelligence technologies with new generation of medical grade wearables to deliver what we call RPM, remote patient monitoring services for the remote monitoring of patients with chronic disease and for predictive services. Before going into the details of this solution and how we leverage artificial intelligence, maybe some few words about the main challenge experienced in healthcare these days. You probably know these numbers, but that's what has led Chronolife to develop its solution. There are today 300 million people in North America and in the United States and in the European Union that have at least one chronic disease and which absorb 80% of the healthcare expenditures. And this number, unfortunately, increase year after year. Just to give you some example on specific disease, chronic diseases, there are 200 million people in North America and the European Union suffering from hypertension and cardiac arrhythmia, and 21 million patients in the US and in the EU suffering from what we call CHF, chronic heart failure. And this number, as I was saying, of patients with chronic disease increase year after year globally. In parallel, when you take a look at the number of beds available in the hospitals, that doesn't go in the right direction, I would say. If you take the example of France, as you noticed my French accent, I'm French, so I will take examples in France. In 10 years, the number of beds available in the hospitals have decreased by 15%. However, the population has increased by 10%. So when you combine all these statistics and all these numbers, definitely you have two curves going not in the same direction. That leads to the need for the healthcare professionals and for the healthcare stakeholders to reduce the number of admissions in the hospitals, to reduce the number of readmissions in the hospitals, to make sure that only the patients that do need care comes back to the hospital. And of course, as you can imagine, the COVID-19 crisis that we currently experience have really increased this phenomenon and this critical challenge. So definitely a need for remote patient monitoring, a need so that when the patient is discharged from the hospital, it can be remotely monitored from home, and so that the healthcare professional receive alarms when only the patient do need care, do need to come back to the hospitals. But so that RPM, so that remote patient monitoring services are successful, three major conditions are required. First, the medical devices need to be simple to use to obtain the adherence of the patients to the remote patient monitoring service and also to improve his quality of life. What is also needed is continuous multi-parametric data collection. just because for an healthcare professional to do a remote diagnostics of the health status of a patient with only one data, one measurement, one medical data is very challenging. He will always try to combine several medical data and associated measurements in order to make his diagnostics. And on top of that, if you want to be proactive and predictive to make sure that only the patients that do need care comes back to the hospital, then you need an algorithm which is able to continuously analyze all this medical data generated by the remote patient monitoring service. That's exactly what we try to do and try to achieve at Chronolife. And for that, we have 3 major assets and patents. The first patent is a connected and washable T-shirt, which include 10 sensors, and I will come back on that, which can really be wear as a simple garment. It's washable. You do not need to remove any electronic component before washing in a washing machine. We have also a patented algorithm that we call a neuromorphic algorithm. In fact, it's an edge computing technology, which has the capability to continuously analyze and do the fusion of the data generated continuously by the T-shirt. And through this analysis on low power chipset. So this algorithm can run on smartphone, tablet. It receives all this data, compute the data, do the fusion, and detect and generate clinical events and alert. And I will explain you how we leverage it through the T-shirt. And our 3 major assets is, of course, the infrastructure that we have put in place in order to securely collect all the data generated by the T-shirt and going through the application on the smartphone of the patients to make this medical data available to our customers that are mainly, as you can imagine, healthcare professionals or big pharma or big medtech. That's the 3 major assets and patents that we leverage at Chronolife. So just to give you more details about how the solution works, the connected and washable T-shirt generates continuously 6 medical data and measurements, namely an electrocardiogram, single lead. It also monitors the abdominal respiration, the thoracic respiration, the pulmonary impedance in order to detect edema, the temperature of the skin, and the activity of the patient or the user of the T-shirt. All these data are generated continuously, transit through the Bluetooth interface of the T-shirt, transmitted through Bluetooth on the smartphone application of Chronolife, and then transmitted through Wi-Fi, 3G, 4G, up to the remote servers, certified servers for healthcare applications, of course. And then we provide to our customers web services so that they can access all this medical data. The application on the smartphone can have, if needed, or patented algorithm or artificial intelligence-based neuromorphic algorithm embedded in the application so that it can compute continuously, do the fusion continuously of the data generated, of the measurement generated by the T-shirt. And through the fusion of this data, in fact, what the algorithm is doing is generate a figure which represents, in fact, the healthcare state of the patient at one moment. And as you can imagine, if this figure change and take the typical figure or format of a specific disease, a specific chronic disease, such as worsening heart failure, then immediately an alarm is generated and sent to the healthcare professional to decide if the treatment needs to be changed, if the patient needs to come back to the hospital, or if he needs to visit, for instance, a specialist, a cardiologist, for instance, to make a more detailed ECG. In order to demonstrate the capabilities and the performances of this algorithm, of this artificial intelligence-based solutions, leveraging this connected and washable T-shirt, with the support and the help of our steering committee, of our scientific committee, mainly composed of cardiologists in Europe, we have worked out a specific clinical trial in order to demonstrate that this combined solution, so when I say combined solution, I mean the connected washable t-shirt together with the application on the smartphone that collect all the data generated by the t-shirt plus the algorithm, that this combined solution is able to predict chronic heart failure or worsening heart failure. We have started by this pathology because, as you have seen, the data generated by the t-shirt today is very well adapted for such a pathology. This clinical trial that we have named VESTA has recently been launched in Europe with 25 hospitals in Europe and in 6 European countries. The patient pathway is the following one. That's patients that are hospitalized, have been admitted in hospitals for a major decompensation, so for a worsening heart failure situation, and that are discharged from the hospital. But unfortunately, 70% of the patients that have made a decompensation, a heart failure, once discharged, 70% of these patients will do a new decompensation, so a new heart failure in the 3 to 6 months once discharged. So it's very important to follow this, to monitor remotely these patients, to try to detect prior it happens, a new decompensation. And that's exactly what we do these days with these pan-European clinical trials with 550 patients discharged from hospitals after a major decompensation, to whom we give 2 to 3 t-shirts so that they can be remotely monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in order to detect a possible decompensation and allow the cardiologist and the hospital to either ask the patient to come back to the hospital or urgently visit a cardiologist. So the results of this trial aiming at demonstrating what I just indicated, we will know the results by mid-end of next year, the objective being to obtain the class 2B certification, healthcare certification of this predictive algorithm, of this predictive artificial intelligence-based algorithm to detect worsening heart failure and to predict worsening heart failure events. You have here on the screen I just wanted to display the offering today because we already have an healthcare certified service and product named KeySense, but that do not leverage our predictive algorithm today, but which is used for the remote monitoring of patients with chronic disease. And so the objective is really to have this algorithm, this predictive algorithm embedded in the application so that we can predict worsening heart failure, and then later on other pathologies such as sleep apnea, but for which we will need to conduct new clinical trial in order to obtain the class 2B certification of the end-to-end solution. So this being said, and as a conclusion, you can already appreciate the main current and potential benefits of artificial intelligence-based technologies applied to healthcare in general and for remote patient monitoring in particular, which are, first of all, this capability to compute, do the fusion and analyze multiple data sources and data flows continuously to detect health deterioration in quasi real time, to also provide numerous clinical parameters and events to allow the GP to do an improved diagnostics quasi in real time using data generated continuously. So allowing the GP to modify the treatment and therapy in due time before a major deterioration of the health of the patient happens. And so, as I was saying, make sure that only the patients that do need care come back to the hospital. And as a consequence, and I think it's a critical thing, and I wanted to finish this presentation on that, is to improve the quality of life of the patient, but also the patient outcomes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laurent. That is fascinating what you're telling us. So if you have any questions for Laurent, please follow him into the networking lounge in the speaker Q&A room using the link in that room, which is now being dropped into the session chat at Hopin. Over on the session stage in 5 minutes, we have our much anticipated panel on cancer versus COVID. Has the pandemic upended cancer care? Featuring Deborah James from Bowelbabe, Dr. Stephanie Cuckoo, senior consultant at Hardian Health, advisor and clinical AI consultant at the World Health Organization. Linda Thomas, Chief Executive at Macmillan Cancer Support, Dr. Nevin Ramcharandan, Radiology Consultant at the University College in London, Professor Pat Price, oncologist and founder at Catch Up with Cancer campaign, Matthew Williams, consultant clinical oncologist at the Imperial College of London. And this all will be moderated by Dr. Alison Gardner, Program Director, Data Science degree apprenticeship and co-founder at the Kiel University and co-founder of Women Leading in AI. So that will be the panel over on the session stage. And we're going to take a little break here. See you.